We're kicking off today with SmackDown as during the show a vignette aired teasing the arrival of something big to the Blue brand. The vignette, that seemed inspired by Fast and the Furious, showed car chases and police sirens, as well as a city that fans on Twitter recognized to be Detroit. With this tease, it appears that WWE has confirmed that the Motor City Machine Guns have signed with WWE and that they'll be coming to WWE's main roster soon. While it's been reported for some time that Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin had been in talks with WWE, this promo all but guarantees their arrival and that they'll be skipping NXT. PW Insider reports that they were told that the vignette was indeed for the Guns, and while there had been reported plans for an NXT run, the team were not in Chicago for this week's show. Shelley and Sabin are one of wrestling's most popular tag teams, and the pair left TNA earlier this year and did have negotiations with AEW that ultimately fell through. In case this tease was not enough, fans watching in Brazil were spoiled on who this segment is teasing, as the commentary team directly referenced the Motor City Machine Guns. We can only imagine how angry the backstage crew will have been at this, and while Michael Cole and Corey Graves didn't make the same mistake, this spoiler has been shared online. Nevertheless, fans will get to see Shelley and Sabin, both former TNA champs, on WWE TV soon, and what do you hope to see them do in WWE? Sound off in the comments down below. Speaking of tag teams, the Bloodline put their titles on the line this week as they defended against the Street Profits and DIY in a ladder match. The show's main event saw each team get a full entrance, and all three sides have showcase moments, with DIY hitting a devastating shatter machine off the ladder. Similarly, the Profits delivered a double-team maneuver on Ciampa, with Montez Ford flying over a ladder from the top turnbuckle to do some damage. In the climax, though, it was the Bloodline who emerged victorious, despite Tongaloa being sent through a table by Montez Ford with a From the Heavens splash. The finish of the match saw DIY and the Profits scramble to the top of the ladder, only for Loa to return to the ring and knock them off their ladders before he and Tama Tonga grabbed the gold. This was an exciting match worthy of the main event spot on SmackDown, and it was improved by the fact that there was no outside interference by the other Bloodline members for a change. Instead, Tama and Loa won this match through their own hard work, and proving they could get the win without assistance by Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu was a win the pair needed. Ahead of this week's SmackDown, there had been a lot of buzz about the return of AJ Styles, who hadn't appeared on WWE TV since Clash at the Castle 2014 back in June. While reports came out in August that he was going to return to TV, that didn't happen, but fans finally got to see the phenomenal one on last night's show. Styles was introduced in Nashville by country music star Hardy, not related to either Matt or Jeff, and AJ said it was fitting for his return to come in Nashville, Tennessee. For those unaware, Nashville was the base of operations for TNA Wrestling for years, but AJ said he wasn't there to dwell on the past, but to instead rebuild his legacy. AJ planned to remind the roster that SmackDown is the house that AJ Styles built, but he was interrupted by Carmelo Hayes, and the pair talked about LA Knight. Hayes refused to take any advice from AJ, who he called a quitter, and LA Knight then appeared, promising Hayes a title match if he could beat Styles in his first match back. In that match, things were going well, until it took a sudden turn as Styles appeared to injure his foot, a setback that forced the match to be called off. Hayes was awarded the match by forfeit, but the former NXT champion ate a BFT by LA Knight after the match, and the megastar ended standing tall. Things went from bad to worse for Melo later in the show, as despite winning the match via forfeit, Nick Aldis refused to grant him the previously promised US title match. Aldis said he would be focused on Styles' health first before talking to Melo about a future opportunity at the Gold, leaving Hayes frustrated about his situation. As for AJ, though visibly hurt, he was able to limp away from the ring under his own power, and right now it's unclear if this was a real injury or a storyline setback planned for the show. We can only hope it's the latter, as the last thing AJ needs is to miss more time due to a real injury, and we hope to provide an update on the phenomenal one very soon. At WWE Bad Blood 2024, Bayley will challenge Women's Champion Nia Jax in a rematch from SummerSlam where Jax won the gold from the Role Model. Bayley has had many monikers during her WWE run, from the Role Model to the Hugger to Bayley Dos Belts, but one name she hasn't been known as is Pam. During a SmackDown segment with Bayley, Jax and Tiffany Stratton, Miss Money in the Bank clearly got flustered as she called Bayley Pam before correcting herself. Bayley's real name is Pamela Rose Martinez, but it's not a name she's ever used in WWE, and the ever-professional Role Model carried on and acted like nothing had happened. And this was an unfortunate botch by Stratton, one that has been shared by fans on social media, and the buff Barbie will no doubt be wanting to avoid a similar mistake from here on. Tonight's PLE will also see CM Punk face Drew McIntyre inside Hell in a Cell in what is suspected to be the final collision as part of their lengthy, deeply personal feud. Throughout this program, McIntyre hasn't been afraid to bring up Punk's personal life, including his wife AJ Lee, leading some to suspect that she could be on the cusp of a WWE return. On Twitter, a fan shared a video asking AJ to return to WWE as she allows Punk to come out of the house looking good, and AJ responded saying, "I'm just generous like that." While AJ found the fans' request funny, there's no shortage of people who legitimately want AJ to return over 9 years after her last match on the March 30th, 2015 Raw. Following Punk's return in November 2023, a source within WWE told SE Scoops that AJ was very well liked and respected, but that she was not a topic at the moment. In April of this year, Punk told the MMA Hour podcast that AJ would probably not return to WWE, but thinks there is a door open for her and that he'd love to see it. Ultimately, it'll be AJ's choice as to whether she returns to WWE, and would you like to see the former Divas champion on screen alongside her husband? Sound off in the comments. During a recent edition of the Pat McAfee Show, Pat told Cody Rhodes that he'd heard the big guy was back, a comment that Rhodes neither confirmed nor denied. While neither man said who this big guy is, many fans have predicted that it's The Rock, who vowed to get payback on Rhodes during their segment on the post-WrestleMania edition of Raw. With Rhodes and Roman Reigns set to face the Bloodline tonight, Bad Blood seems the perfect time for The Rock to return, and we've now received a huge update from the final boss. On Instagram, The Rock shared a heartfelt message in support of Appalachia High School Wildcats as they prepared for their first home game since last month's tragic school shooting. The reason this is relevant to WWE is that the high school is in Georgia, as will tonight's Bad Blood PLE be when it takes place from the State Farm Arena in Atlanta. While many predicted The Rock's return to come around the Royal Rumble, setting up the road to WrestleMania, we can't count out the final boss kicking things off early tonight. Do you think The Rock will appear at Bad Blood? If so, what do you expect to see from the Brahma Bull? Share your thoughts down in the comments. When Shane McMahon met with Tony Khan in July of this year, fans immediately speculated on his arrival and what he could do if he is indeed all elite. Some fans believe that McMahon will align with Jon Moxley and his heel group, especially after Moxley told Tony Schiavone that this is not your company anymore on a recent Dynamite. While some believe that Moxley was teasing some kind of power role for Shane, that won't be the case, according to Wrestling Observer newsletter. They report that backstage sources have denied that this is the intended direction, stating that Shane McMahon is not part of the storyline with Moxley and his group. Though this isn't the plan, expectations are at a fever pitch that Shane will join, with Mercedes Moné recently stating that she and the roster would welcome Shane to the company. Do you think Shane McMahon should join AEW? What role would you have for him on TV if he's not part of Moxley's heel faction? Share your ideas down in the comments section. Back to SmackDown, as the show was a packed 2 hours ahead of Bad Blood, and the fans got a special treat at the taping when the cameras weren't rolling. WWE typically hosts a match or two before or after SmackDown, and this week, a dark match saw a huge title change, and if you don't want to be spoiled, please skip the next 45 seconds of this video. In WWE Speed Women's Division action, Candice LeRae defeated Io Sky in the finals of a tournament to become the first ever WWE Speed Women's Champion. LeRae defeated Piper Niven in her opening round match and beat Kairi Sane in her semifinals bout that took place before this week's SmackDown went on the air. LeRae certainly proved herself with her 2 matches in one night, and her win is something of a shock given how different her position is in WWE to those 3 women she's beaten. While Niven, Sane, and Sky are all regulars on TV, LeRae is rarely on TV, and do you think she was the right call to be the first WWE Speed Women's Champion? Let us know below. After weeks of build, Chelsea Green and Michin met on SmackDown in a dumpster match, which, as the name suggests, the only way to win is by putting your opponent in a dumpster. The two didn't take long in introducing weapons, including a table and a baking tray, and the action continued through a commercial break, giving the pair plenty of time in the ring. Green nailed a Canadian Destroyer on Michin, but that couldn't seal the deal, and Piper Niven would also get involved, wearing a full sanitation worker uniform to help her friend. Interestingly, one spot saw Green dive off the top rope while Michin's face was near a trash can, and on Twitter, the Canadian called it proof of her attempt at Coast to Coast. This is a move that has been used for years by Shane McMahon, and the fact that she used it amid rumors of Shane joining AEW didn't go unnoticed by fans. Green, who was wearing her own glamorized take on the uniform, did all she could, but in the end, Michin powerbombed Green through a table into the dumpster to get the win. This was a lot of fun for fans to watch and saw plenty of weapon usage, while Green was her naturally hilarious self after the match as she dealt with being covered in trash. As for Michin, this is another big win for her, and it remains to be seen what's next for her as she continues to score victories, though still seems far removed from the women's title picture. Now, the last time Raquel Rodriguez competed, it was at the February 26th edition of Raw, as she's been out of action due to her mast cell activation syndrome. MCAS results in those with the condition showing symptoms of allergic reactions, such as hives, rashes, and blistered skin, but this week Rodriguez teased a return to the ring. On her Instagram stories, Rodriguez shared a photo of her training, possibly teasing a return, and later shared a tale of the tape graphic for Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan. That match will see Dominic Mysterio suspended above the ring in a shark cage, though as we've seen in the past, that doesn't always stop confined wrestlers from interfering. Ripley has history with both Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, and fans can't count out the former NXT Women's Champion making her presence felt during tonight's match. Last month, PW Insider Elite reported that Rodriguez would be returning to the ring soon, and could that return come as soon as tonight's Bad Blood event in Georgia? Time will tell. With us being in October, Halloween is almost upon us, and this week the folks at WWE 2K gave a spooky update on their 2K24 video game, courtesy of The Fiend. It's been confirmed that Bray Wyatt's unforgettable alter ego will be added to the game on October 16th, joining the versions of the late wrestler that are already available. These versions include an NWO Wyatt inspired by his WrestleMania 36 role, and a classic Saturday Night's Main Event version of the three-time former world champion. Wyatt is no longer with us, but his legacy will last forever, and fans will get to see that legacy in action when The Fiend comes to WWE 2K24 later this month. On August 30th, Kevin Kelly filed a class action lawsuit against AEW alongside Brendan and Brandon Tate, better known as Dalton Castle's boys. The suit claims that AEW misclassified its wrestlers and talent as independent contractors, wrongfully terminated the Tates, and that Kelly has been the subject of defamatory comments. In an update, Post Wrestling reports that the plaintiffs filed in the Court of Common Pleas and plan to move to remand, and that AEW could seriously be impacted based on this case. The report adds that 290 individuals provided services as independent contractors to AEW during the relevant period and would have to pay big if they could no longer use that class. If AEW were to classify these individuals as employees, it's reported that AEW would incur a tax liability of at least 9.9% of pay to the putative class members, more than $5.97 million in total. With other costs and 30% allocated for attorney fees, AEW anticipates expenses totaling approximately $14.5 million if this matter doesn't go in their favor. This is just the start of this lawsuit, and many things are yet to come, and we'll continue to follow this case for updates on what could prove to be a game changer for AEW. On next week's Raw, Gunther will defend his World Heavyweight Championship against Sami Zayn in a match that the underdog has been calling for weeks. While this will be a huge match, it won't be coming at a premium live event, despite it being an obvious choice to take place at tonight's Bad Blood show. The decision to have the match on Raw instead of Bad Blood has spawned a backlash with fans, but WWE has a reason for keeping this match off the PLE. In the Wrestling Observer newsletter, it's shared that WWE felt that Bad Blood didn't need the match, and that the title bout would be better used, boosting the profile of this week's Raw. It was added that based on the ticket sales for Bad Blood and the secondary market, WWE's belief is right, as the show hasn't had an issue selling tickets even without this match. In the secondary market, Bad Blood tickets have been starting at the hefty price of $225, and the fact that fans will still pay that shows how popular this show has been. As for Gunther and Zayn, they'll compete on Raw and almost certainly in the main event, but do you think they should have made it to the Bad Blood card? Let us know down below. Over to AEW now, as while the 5th anniversary of Dynamite was a packed show full of some of the company's biggest personalities, Taz was not present for the festivities. Mere hours before the show, it was disclosed that Taz had been attacked in the parking lot, proving that it's not just WWE NXT that has a dangerous parking area. In an update, the Wrestling Observer newsletter has shared that Taz has been written off TV so he can have full knee replacement surgery, something he's been putting off for some time. On Twitter, Taz confirmed the news about his surgery, and while the initial recovery phase of this surgery takes 6 to 12 weeks, that could be a lot longer for Taz. Given his years in the ring and other facts, it's been reported that it could be up to 3 to 6 months or even longer before Taz can regain full mobility in his knee. In the meantime, Hook will be on the hunt for his father's attacker, as he made clear during a promo on Dynamite, and fans have already been pointing the finger of suspicion. But who do you think attacked Taz? Christian Cage, whose segment aired straight after Hook's? Perhaps Nigel McGuinness, who replaced Taz on Dynamite? Let us know in the comments. In recent days, the US has been hit by Hurricane Helene, resulting in the loss of lives, damage to properties, and in wrestling, several events being postponed or canceled. TNA Wrestling had to reschedule their tapings in Spartanburg, South Carolina twice before eventually canceling the taping, but the company is ready to do what it can. This week, TNA hosted tapings in Nashville's Skyway Studios, with tickets costing just $10 and all proceeds going to help with relief efforts. Not only that, but TNA auctioned matched, used, and autographed memorabilia, as the company is doing what it can to help those currently struggling in the wake of Hurricane Helene. Back to SmackDown, as after the segment with Bayley, Nia Jax, and Tiffany Stratton, it was Miss Money in the Bank in action, and she took on Naomi. Naomi started off in control, but it wasn't long before Stratton was in control, and these two have developed a chemistry in recent weeks, but unfortunately that wasn't entirely on display here. This match had a couple of slow moments that hurt its flow, but both excelled in their individual roles as Stratton's power was on display, as was Naomi's agility. In the end, it was Naomi who got the win with a counter into a pin, earning something of an upset against somebody who WWE is clearly behind as a future women's champion. We mentioned earlier that a new champion was crowned at this week's SmackDown taping, but that wasn't the only exciting match once the show wasn't on the air. In a dark match, Liv Morgan retained her Women's World Championship against Lyra Valkyria, and while Liv had Dirty Dom in her corner, that won't be the case tonight, thanks to a shark cage. In our dark main event of the evening, undisputed WWE Champion Cody Rhodes took on Austin Theory, who had Grayson Waller in his corner. Despite being outnumbered, Rhodes outsmarted the pair by sending Theory crashing into Waller before picking up the victory with a crossroads. And that was this week's SmackDown, a solid episode even if it was short on matches, and the potential injury to AJ Styles gave the first hour of the show a somber mood. The ladder match main event was a lot of fun and typically what you'd consider the best match of the night, but for entertainment factor, that crown has to go to Green versus Michin. Not only did those women beat the life out of each other in an entertaining gimmick bout, but Green in particular shined for several reasons as the MVP of this week's SmackDown. From her outfit to her work in the ring to the table bump and her selling after the match, Green was in her element in this match that blended wrestling action with excellent storytelling. Green is one of the most valuable assets in the women's division because her dedication to making every single detail matter helps her stand out. But what did you think of this week's WWE Smackdown? Was it a serviceable go-home show before tonight's Bad Blood? Let us know below, and as always, thanks for watching.